أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين، وصلى الله وسلم على سيدنا ونبينا محمد وآله الطيبين الطاهرين. اللهم صل على محمد. إن شاء الله آية 24 Sura Yunus, آية 24, 25 and 27, 26. We'll see how we go inshallah. 24, 25 and 26.
كذلك نفصل الآيات لقوم يتذكرون الله يدعو إلى دار السلام ويهدي من يشاء إلى صراط مستقيم للذين أحسنوا الحسنى وزيادة ولا يرهق وجوههم قتر ولا ذلة أولئك أصحاب الجنة هم فيها خالدون.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم، وصلى الله وسلم على سيدنا محمد وآله الطيبين الطاهرين. اللهم صل على محمد وعلى محمد. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Inshallah, we'll continue on the reflections on the ayat of Surah Yunus. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant us the opportunity to be amongst those who recite and reflect on the ayat of the Holy Quran and then act on what we've done. And therefore, on the Day of Judgment, it will be said, recite and rise. Iqra warq. And the statuses are based on the status of the numbers of the ayat of the Holy Quran. The statuses of Qiyam or Jannah are based on the numbers of the ayat of the Holy Quran. The more we act on not just recite, reflect, and act on, the higher our status would be. So inshallah, every ayah that we make an effort to learn and understand and implement will be a status in Jannah. This is not a simple thing. Imagine now moving from the average neighborhood to millionaire's neighborhood, and then we go from the millionaire's neighborhood to the trillionaire's neighborhood with one ayah. You recite and reflect one ayah. Now we're speaking in numbers and things to do with this dunya, very limited to compare to akhirah. There's very little that we can, in fact, see in terms of the difference between some class to the other versus the akhirah. And that's what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says. وَلَلْآخِرَةُ أَكْبَرُ دَرَجَاتٍ وَأَكْبَرُ تَفْضِيلًا. Akhirah is greater in the statuses and greater in the gaps between the statuses. Tafdeel is where what others have that is bigger and better than the lower level. So inshallah we try and implement whatever we're learning. We reflect and implement inshallah. The ayat, ayah 24 that was recited gives an example of hayat al-dunya, life in this dunya. The entire life of dunya is compared to certain things that we will inshallah go through. However, why previous ayat, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala described how some people, despite all the favors that God does to them, especially when they're in desperate times, they don't turn into grateful people. They don't display gratitude. In fact, they turn away. Even though they promise, لَأَكُونَنَّ مِنَ الشَّاكِرِينَ, they promise. And why? The problem is because they prefer hayat ad-dunya. They get busy with hayat ad-dunya. From earlier in the story, in the surah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala describing these people, He says they are the ones who don't have any hope in meeting their Lord. لَا يَرْجُونَ لِقَاءَنَا. And what happens as a result? وَرَضُوا بِالْحَيَاةِ الدُّنْيَا. They were okay with dunya. They are pleased and okay with hayat in this dunya. That's all they care for or care about. And so whenever they are saved in desperate times, they turn to God. In this dunya, in desperate times, and these are times that God is reminding us, is giving us reminders that come to me. Even in this dunya, in desperate times, they turn to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but whenever He saves them, they walk away, and all of it because they care for some things they want. يَبْغُونَ إِنَّمَا بَغْيُكُمْ عَلَىٰ أَنفُسِكُمْ. They just want certain things in this world. And we said, wanting this world, the problem with it is when we prioritize this world and we don't see God in the equation, if, inshallah, not us, if people don't see God in the equation, prioritize this world, it'll lead to oppression. They will want for them, not others. Because in this world, there's a lot of what we call in Arabic tazahum. There's a lot of, there are many situations where it's either me or him. And, there's one president, for example, okay? That's one position. It's not like akhirah, thawab of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala becomes clear. If we understood akhirah, we would have lived in this world in our responsibilities as if they're all the same. Whether I'm a president or a janitor or a principal or whatever I might be, I'm doing my duty. And therefore I will get statuses in akhirah. In akhirah there's no competition. But in this world there are. The wealth, we see it, and this is part of the test, we see it as limited. When the Imam of our time, Ajalallah Ta'ala Farajahu al-Sharif, we are in fact in the days of celebrating the birth of the Imam and inshallah praying for the return of the Imam, Ajalallah Ta'ala Farajah. When he comes, he will show the people how there's so many treasures in this world that were uncovered or were have not been uncovered, were hidden, and how they could all live comfortably. They could all live in abundance. They could all live in a state of being needless. Ghani, all of them. But because of their sins, because of their baghi, and this is why baghi is against themselves, ala anfusikum, because of them oppressing someone else to gain something, they gain it, it's short-lived, it's not so tayyib, it's not so enjoyable. It is not, it's basically, it is like a food that you literally snatch from someone's hand and are eating it while you see them crying. How can you enjoy it? Can you really enjoy that kind of food? You see somebody, this kind of situation, this is oppression, this is bad. You would never enjoy it. And you know what happens in the Arabic dialect? They have this term, they say you will choke on it. Okay, if it's not yours, you'll end up choking on it. So you didn't enjoy it, you choked on it, and even if it doesn't happen literally and immediately, it happens. Diseases happen. Zulm bring about diseases, problems. Oppression brings about all sorts of problems, issues. And it may happen in some cases sooner, in some cases later. It will happen. Baghi is against us. Whereas when we are all living in a way that we're fair to each other, giving, loving, caring, sharing, then we will find that there is abundance in this world. God has not withheld. His blessings and mercy is there. We just got it the wrong way. We just seek it the wrong way. And by us seeking it the wrong way, fasad happens. Disasters happen. The example of that, the boys whose father, it's one of the stories in the Holy Quran, Surah Al-Qalam, their father died, and he used to give charity on the day of harvest. Whenever they had the harvest, he would give charity. The poor would line up and he would give their share. They decided that they won't give. This year, we will not do it. So we will go early on before anyone else shows up. We will harvest and we'll go away. And that's as a result of that greed, nature went against them. فَطَاعَفَ عَلَيْهِمْ طَائِفٌ مِّن رَبِّكَ. The fire came, burned the whole thing. They came the next day, it's all ashes. And they were in regret. And إِنَّا لَمُغْرَمُونَ بَلْ نَحْنُ مَحْرُومُونَ. We surely are deprived. God has deprived us. This is the system He put in the world, in this world. These are traditions He has put. Nevertheless, they want for themselves because they're focused on hayat al-dunya. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in previous ayat, or the previous ayah, He says, mata'ul hayat al-dunya. These are the things that they want for this short-lived life that is lower, dunya from dunuf, so lower in its status compared to akhirah. And they will all be returned to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and we will tell them, give them the news of what they used to do. فَنُنَبِّئُكُمْ بِمَا كُنْتُمْ تَعْمَلُونَ. Everything that you have done, it'll be like news to you. And I shared with mu'mineen and mu'minat, almost you've forgotten, but it's all there and you're reminded of it as news, some of it. Next, he says the example of this dunya that you care for, you prioritize it over akhirah. There's no problem with wanting dunya and wanting akhirah. There's no problem with wanting dunya for akhirah. But the problem is wanting dunya and not akhirah. Prioritizing dunya over akhirah. In action, some people say, oh, well, we want both. You want both? Show that you want both. Prove it through your actions. Your actions should be accordingly. So if you want akhirah just as much as dunya, show how you divide your time, for example. How you divide your wealth, for example. You spend so much for your dunya. How much do you spend for your akhirah? You spend so much time for your dunya. How much do you spend for your akhirah? إنما مثل الحياة الدنيا he says, كَمَاءٍ أَنزَلْنَاهُ مِنَ السَّمَاءِ. Now, almost like describing a season. We had the rain last night, was heavy, huh? And almost like a tap opened up and poured down. Alhamdulillah, it's mercy and blessings. And so rain comes, and that's why you see greenery. Everywhere's green, beautiful because of the rain. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is giving the example of this life of dunya to a season or even a part of it. It could be based on how we look at it, and I'll explain inshallah. So he said the example of hayat al-dunya is like a water, the water that comes from, that we bring down from the heavens. أَنزَلْنَاهُ مِنَ السَّمَاءِ. When it comes down, the water mixes, or a mixed variety of vegetables grow through it. Meaning, the meaning is could take both. So he says, فَاخْتَلَطَ بِهِ نَبَاتُ الْأَرْضِ. With it, the plants on earth, from earth, with the rain that comes, the plants on earth are mixed. Now, mixed in the sense that there's a variety. Or some suggest that it means the water mixes with the plants. It becomes part of the plants. You have the earth, water comes, the mixture of those brings about the plant. You know, you need the water and the earth. Earth has the minerals, ingredients, seeds, whatever it is, the life that is supposed to come out. Without the water, that life is not going to come out. So that mixture is what brings about. Some suggest that that's what it means. Others suggest no. فَاخْتَلَطَ is referring to the mixing. Khalt is to mix. The mixing of the plants that people consume and animals consume. You know, some plants you consume, some plants animals consume. So the ayah continues to say, مِمَّا يَأْكُلُ النَّاسُ وَالْأَنْعَامُ. From what people eat and what the cattle also eat, consume. حتى إذا أخذت الأرض, both meanings could apply, until when the earth it becomes beautified. أخذت الأرض زخرفها وزينت. Zukhruf is the peak of beauty, peak of husn. Husn is beauty. Zukhruf is the peak of it. That's why they refer to zakhrafa. They refer to when you put gold in your artistic work. If you have let's say you're trying to make a piece of furniture and you start decorating it with gold, they call that zakhrafa, for example. That's the peak of it. That's, you can't get any better. You know, now you're beautifying it with gold, putting some gold lines in it, and so on and so forth. Even fabric, they used to have fabric with golden threads. You know, so it's, you know, you have some gold in your fabric that you use for the kings and so on. Nowadays they don't do that. They just put a brand name, and they make people pay for it as if it's gold. Huh? It's just a brand name, for goodness sake. It's the same thing in any case. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says the earth beautifies itself. And حتى إذا أخذت الأرض زخرفها, it becomes beautiful. Now you look at when the rain comes and the sun shines afterwards, what happens? You see beauty. So much color and greenery and beauty coming out. أخذت الأرض زخرفها وزينت. It beautified itself, ornamented itself. What happens? وظن أهلها أنهم قادرون عليها. Their people, the owners, أهل here could be the people living there or the owners. They feel like it belongs to us. We have it. It's in our hands. قادرون is like they have power over it. They will get it. The fruits of it, the enjoyment of it, the vegetables that they're gonna get. That's it. It's there. It's in their control. وظن What happens? أتاها أمرنا. The command from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala came to it. And what happens? It turns أتاها أمرنا ليلا أو نهارا, at night sometimes, and sometimes during the day. Sometimes it's a storm in the night. You sleep, you wake up, and everything's gone. Sometimes it's during the day. ليلا أو نهارا فجعلناها حصيدا. We make it like an already harvested land. You know, when you go to, if you've seen cornfields, or I recently visited somewhere in north of Florida, and they had cotton farms, but it was after they had harvested it. It looks horrible. Okay, when it's already harvested, it's they've taken all the cotton, and now it's just like scattered cotton here and there, plants that are dried up. It's just this is hasid, cornfield. Okay, before they harvest it, it's beautiful, everything. And when they come with their machines and so on, it's gone. It's just nothing. That is the state after the storm, it says this is how people will see it afterwards. فَجَعَلْنَاهَا حَصِيدًا. As if it did not have anything, it was not there. كَأَنَّهَا كَأَن لَمْ تَغْنَ بِالْأَمْسِ. As if بالأمس, yesterday, it was not there. تغنى comes from the term similar to the term to stand, to be there, to be standing. So it could be as if, and they use the term ghina, sufficiency, or having, richness, from the same root, to stand. The one who's rich, one who is standing in a good standing financially and so on, they use the same term. As if it was never standing, as if it was never there. Some suggest that that's what, but the term that makes more sense, or the one that's closer to the meaning, is that as if it was not standing. You have all this field, all of a sudden it's all down, like a hailstorm, fire, it could be a cold, it could be when you have the freezing temperatures. You've seen sometimes when we get frozen temperatures, some of the trees, if you have banana trees here in Florida, you will see that, because they cannot stand the frozen temperatures. The next day they're down. Okay, if you get freezing temperatures. So this now, the command from God could be any of those. The example here is life, the entire life of dunya versus this season of the rain coming, vegetables coming out, beautiful, and suddenly they are gone. Whether the season is over, winter comes and they're drying up and they're gone, as if they were not there. You see fields like this. Whether a storm comes, a hailstorm comes, destroys it. Sometimes in the middle of summer, you have a hailstorm destroying vegetables and plants and so on. Whether it's a fire that burns everything, it could be any of those things. A command from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that destroys it. It makes it as if it was not standing and never beautiful. It was beautiful one day. أخذت الأرض زخرفها وزينت. But now it's all gone. Now this is given as an example to life of dunya. كأن لم تغن بالأمس كذلك نفصل الآيات لقوم يتفكرون. Tafseer is when you expand, when you explain, expand. Fasl comes from when you separate. Okay, tafsil is when you explain it and elaborate and make make everything clear. This is clear from this. You have separated them. Like you go in in an office, for example, you have files and binders and folders and different drawers even, each labeled. This is now it's nice organized. Imagine everything was just filed. Tafsil is like when you make it very clear, explain it and separate. This is how God is doing with his signs. نُفَصِّلُ الْآيَاتِ for the people who would think. لِقَوْمٍ يَتَفَكَّرُونَ if people think this is life, this is your life. Now look at the similarity. We start our life, children, like little, we are just like the plants, hidden until birth, yeah? Not in where exactly, how exactly, we will leave that, because in the ahadith we are told that we are in the aslab of the fathers, okay? In the soul, they say the back, but it's in the basically within, okay? The father then goes into the egg and the mother and so on. Before then, how we were carried from one father to another. This is what Imam Hussein alayhi salam describes in Dua Arafah. He said, Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. He says, you carried me from sulbin ila sulb, from the back of a father to the back of another father, from one to another, carried me, okay, in years, centuries, okay? I did not do anything about it. I did not know about it. I did not have anything to do with it. You did all that for me, and now that you brought me and so on. It's the dua of shukr, actually, the dua of gratitude to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that dua. So we were just like those plants, sitting there, waiting to be born, yeah? And now born, initially weak, a child, weak, needs their parents to take care of them and so on. Eventually, أخذت الأرض زخرفها وزينت. حتى إذا, it's amazing. It starts with the rain. And فاختلط به, it mixes, water mixes with the soil there, and some, or the plants start coming up in a mixture of what is good for the plants and for animals, what is good for humans and so on, until it gets to a beautiful position, the prime, the youth, the time that one is strong. And أخذت الأرض زخرفها وزينت. What happens when they become in that position, in that status in their life? Only what they've been given is not enough. They also decorate themselves. They have to wear certain things, ride in certain things, makeup, whatever you want to call it, brands, zukhruf, as in gold, and so on. So that's the stage of life that one is in, young and wanting all these things in life. And then people think that, yes, وَظَنَّ أَهْلُهَا أَنَّهُمْ قَادِرُونَ عَلَيْهَا. They think, the people in that position, they think, they have a saying in Arabic, they say, talking to the earth, they say, earth, you should be strong, I'm walking on you. It's like, there's no one as strong as I am now. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the Quran, he says, you will not pierce through the earth. إِنَّكَ لَن تَخْرِقَ الْأَرْضَ. You will not pierce. You're walking on earth, you cannot. وَلَن تَبْلُغَ الْجِبَالَ طُولًا. You will not be as tall as the mountains. You can do whatever you can think, however big you want to think. You cannot be as loud as animals, certain animals. You cannot be as tall as certain animals. If we look at our physical existence in terms of physical beauty or physical strength and abilities, we're not a match for animals. Or even in terms of the greatness, we're not a match for even inanimates, mountains, or the earth. إِنَّكَ لَن تَخْرِقَ الْأَرْضَ وَلَن تَبْلُغَ الْجِبَالَ طُولًا. So they get to that position, وَظَنَّ أَهْلُهَا أَنَّهُمْ قَادِرُونَ عَلَيْهِ. They have all the power. Fir'aun gets to the point, he says, I am your greatest God. In ana rabbukumul a'la. That's because power took him so much. Or Qarun comes out with his zina. فَخَرَجَ عَلَى قَوْمِهِ. He comes out with his zina, beautifies himself, decorates himself with all the gems and jewelry and so on. Comes out to the point that even the believers, they say, we wish we had what Qarun has. يَا لَيْتَنَا لَنَا we wish we had similar to what Qarun had. And soon they realized as he was going down, they say, وَيْكَأَنَّ اللَّهَ. Oh, it's obvious God has power over everything. So they think, they get to that position, they think that they're so strong, they have it all in their control. And then فَجَعَلْنَاهَا حَصِيدًا. Old age comes, a disease comes. It doesn't have to be old age. Sometimes someone gets sick and they are well, everything's good. I went and visited a family that asked that we go and visit them and pray for them. And subhanAllah, the daughter of this man passed away a couple of days ago in this community. For Brother Murtaza as well.
Regular
yes. Bismillah. That was my other example, actually. That subhanAllah, Brother Murtaza was a little older, but still was regular here. Everything's good. All of a sudden, something comes in. And this lady was not even 40, 30 something. And when her father requested that we go and pray for her, and we went to and she looked like a 10-year-old, and completely melted, completely like just gone and weak, and she had given up on life. Imagine somebody in their prime before that disease, she would have been all fine. She was fine. They purchased a home, a great job, everything's good. All of a sudden, something like that happens and they melt away. فَجَعَلْنَاهَا حَصِيدًا كَأَن لَّمْ تَغْنَ بِالْأَمْسِ. As if they were never, when they get to that position, it is so difficult that in this particular case, subhanAllah, she tells her father, I don't want medications anymore. Let me just go. That's كأن لم تغن, as if none of those feelings. وظن أن أهلها أنهم قادرون عليها. We think, oh, I've got it all under control, everything. None of those feelings would be even there at that point when we come to the autumn of life, Khaliq al-Hayat. Because life has also its spring, and it has its prime, summer and growth and work and activity, and then comes the autumn of life and eventually the end of life. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives this example for our entire life. Our entire life is just like that. إنما مثل الحياة. Surely the example of Hayat al-Dunya is like this. The water comes, starts the life, and then it becomes so beautiful, so powerful, everything's good, and suddenly the command comes, Ataha amruna, command of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Not to look at it always, some may think this amr means the punishment. Ataha amruna means the punishment of God. No. The command even it could be the command in the formative level of creation, in the takween. That this is how everything goes through its cycles. Even in terms of sometimes some sort of diseases or death that could be as a result of our actions. Sometimes certain actions have consequences. For example, if somebody is undutiful towards their parents, then their life is cut short. We have multiple hadith about this, that it's cut in half, whatever's remaining. It's cut short. Now, it is set in the formative level of the creation that this action has this reaction. This is the consequence of this action. This is set. The command of God is that you do good, you receive good. You're undutiful, your life is short. You're extra dutiful, your life is prolonged. If Salatul Arham, if you help the relatives, if you have relatives who are needy and you help them, it actually prolongs life. If somebody was meant to live a number of years, whatever it is, it gets longer. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives them more chance, more life in this dunya, more opportunity to do good and so on. So the command, the amr, is not necessarily always a punishment. It's the command set in the formative level, and it's part of the system. Yes, sometimes Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala displays it clearly. Those young men who went to harvest and not give the poor, they're found burnt. طَائِفٌ مِّن رَبِّكَ. Some angel, some power from your Lord came and took care of it. Okay? The charity of the father was constantly, life goes through cycles, yes? Even in terms of the farms, sometimes you have, in fact, I remember in Australia, they used to say that these trees, if they don't have the bushfires, if they don't happen, these trees will not survive. They will suffocate in their own barks and all the shedding. So much, especially near the coastline, so much rain, so much growing, so much shedding, so much bark, they will suffocate. And so what happens every few years, every 10 years or so, they will burn, section by section. And what burns is the accumulated bark and leaves and so on. Otherwise, the actual tree survives. After the fire is over, again, rain comes and you see life starting in it again. And I've witnessed that personally. So the farms, even if, whatever it might be on earth, it goes back in the cycle of, this ashes will become fertilizers for that land or for another land. It's not an issue for dunya, it takes care of itself. But for the individuals, the farmers, the owners, that became a loss for them. Okay? But it goes through cycles, different parts, different places. Why? There is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is delaying because of the good action of the father is protecting their land. That is what we don't see. When a child is running, there's so many accidents that could happen, but there are angels protecting children. And when children harm themselves, it is a charity, it is a purification for their parents. Okay, when you see a child harming themselves, be it known that most of the time it is a sin that parents committed, God is purifying it. This is how you should see it. Okay, because that whatever, if you harm your Imam Salih alayhi salam, somebody hurt themselves, the Imam said it's purification for you. And then he said, don't ever think that even a scratch has no reason. You scratch yourself, there's a reason. God is protecting us from so many things. We cause harm to ourselves by us going against God's orders. That is against nature. Nature is upset with us. Our body is upset with us. On the day of judgment, our body witnesses if God forbid we have done something, witnesses against us if we've sinned. Yeah. So our body, it's not. And some may ask, why is it then that the body is burned in hellfire? The body is obedient to God and glorifying God for doing what it takes basically to punish the self, not the body. The body is, say, clay, okay, from earth. It could be in a part of someone's body, or it could be part of lava, yeah, or it could be a part of a rock, or it could be a part of a river. That's the body. The body, for the body itself, it doesn't matter. For the physical body, for the cells, for the limbs, it doesn't matter where they are. They're obedient to God, they're glorifying God, whether they are part of the cells of my body, or they're in that swimming pool there, or in that tree up there. They're glorifying, they're doing their tasbih. As a cell in my body, it's doing its tasbih. It's whether or not I will do tasbih, and I will also be in submission to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That is what matters. So whenever we go against God's orders, against nature, against what God has set in this universe, His laws are based on how He created this universe, then we cause harm. It could happen through ourselves, it could happen even through our children, harming themselves, hurting themselves, and so on, which hurts us more. If your child hurt themselves, you're hurting more than if you hurt yourself. That's the only time that we experience that. When you are a parent, you experience that there is something that would harm you more than you being harmed. If your child fails, it makes you hurt more. If your child hurt themselves, it hurts you more than even them you hurting yourself, and so on. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala essentially is purifying us. This is the amr, the command of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, is sometimes for purification, sometimes for raising of status, sometimes for a return, a reminder for returning. Ataha amruna, it doesn't mean that we have to look at every one of them as a punishment. They're doomed, they're bad because he got sick, because he got no. It is part of the system, and it could be for raising of their status, it could be for purification for them, it could be a reminder for them. There are different reasons that they could be there. كأن لم تغن بالأمس. And again, these are signs, he says, لقوم يتفكرون. This is very important for us to reflect on life, the beginning of it, the prime of it, the end of it, and look at others, look at plants. He's giving us an example of what? Plants, which happens in a season. Look at the life of nations, which happens beyond a generation. Okay, a nation may last several generations. Okay, maybe they say that in average the life of nations is like 500 years. Okay, or rather not nations, life of kingdoms. Okay, lasting kingdoms, average 500 years. True or false? Allahu A'lam. That's a suggestion. Some have given examples like the Islamic kingdoms, whether it's Bani al-Abbas or Bani Uthman, or the earlier Romans, and then the Persians, certain kings versus other kingdoms, and so on. In any case, sometimes it could be more, sometimes it could be less. Nations or the kingdoms, they may last longer, but they will come to an autumn, an end, or a winter and death. Just like the season, a plant starts and ends. Similarly, an individual starts and ends. Similarly, nations start and end. These are examples, these are lessons. وَتِلْكَ الْأَيَّامُ نُدَاوِلُهَا. Quran says, these days for kings and for powerful people, these days we rotate them between the people. Sometimes he is, they in Lebanese, they say that life is like a wheel. Sometimes you're up here and then someone else is down, and other times you're down and someone else is up. Nudawiluha, it's rotating between people. Sometimes Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives certain people kingdom, others are now enslaved. Other times he makes those who were enslaved once to become kings. And he says in some of the ayat, لِنَنْظُرَ كَيْفَ تَعْمَلُ. Now we made you and the heirs in the ayat regarding Bani Israel, that you were enslaved. And now we freed you and we gave you and we gave you and we gave you. Now how would you act from there? Now you are in power. You are the powerful ones. How do you act? Do you enslave others? Do you oppress others? Or do you thank God for what He has given you, therefore create a good, just, fair system for everyone? Treat those who are under you the way you would have liked to be treated when you were in tough times and enslaved and in persecution and so on. So very important to reflect on life. يتفكرون. Reflect on the cycles of life. Reflect on the cycle, even the life of nations, life of civilizations. There were some in this part of the world, there were some indigenous people who lived once upon a time and had kingdom and everything, and some of them are gone completely. A civilization wiped out completely. This is how it happens sometimes, that some civilizations completely disappear. Death, diseases, problems, wars, whatever it might be. And sometimes they just become part of another civilization and their civilization is also gone. One way or another. أتاها أمرنا فجعلناها حصيدا كأن لم تغن. As if it was never standing before. And this is again a reminder, and this is how God explains and elaborates on His signs, the ayat, for a people who reflect, who think. Inshallah, we're amongst them. The next ayah, beautiful. Now, hayat al-dunya is this, a season, and it is going to be over in this ayah. In the next ayah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَاللَّهُ يَدْعُو إِلَى دَارِ السَّلَامِ. You have a world that starts with a little bit of rain, you get strong, and suddenly gone. This is your world. This is your dunya. Hayat al-dunya, he says, إِنَّمَا مَثَلُ الْحَيَاةِ الدُّنْيَا. Hayat al-dunya is like this. And on the other hand, God is inviting you to what? To the home of salam. Dar salam. Dar is the home, the abode. Salam is peace. But as-salam is one of the names of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So one tafsir is that God is inviting to His house. God is telling us, come and live with me. Not physically. In qurb, nearness. Nearness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala translates in salam, they say, the other tafsir or the other meaning, and we could combine them because the result is the same. As-salam as in as-salamah, safety, health, well-being. In paradise, there is no scratching. Not even a scratch. We said even a scratch in this world is a result of something. It signifies something. We cannot just ignore it. Oh, it just happened, an accident. We call them accidents, yes. But they happen for a reason. There are no accidents. Everything happens for a reason. In this world, there are scratches, there are cuts, wounds, diseases, problems, all sorts of natural disasters and so on and so forth. In this world, it's filled with pain. It's filled with problems. In nearness to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it's salama. It's safety from everything. There's absolutely none of those problems. No sicknesses, no diseases, no headaches, no problems, no issues. Also, a third suggestion is that it's Dar as-Salam because everybody says Salam. Tahiyyatuhum fiha Salam. The greeting of the people of paradise in paradise is what? Is Salam. Peace. Tahiyyatuhum fiha Salam. In Surah Al-Waqi'ah we recite إلا لا يسمعون فيها لغوا ولا تأثيما إلا قيلا سلاما سلاما. Everybody is saying salam. They say salam to themselves. Malaika say salam to them. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says salam to them. Salam, salam. Therefore, it is Darus Salam. One of the meanings, the home of salam. Everybody says salam to everyone. Genuine salam. Huh? What do I mean by genuine salam? Salam means I come, when I say salam to someone, I come in peace. I come in submission to God in your regard. If I'm saying salam to my parents, I will be submissive, patient, obedient, dutiful, respectful, all of those things. If I'm saying salam to the wife, I will be forgiving, loving, kind, so on and so forth. Salam to the children, salam to the neighbor. I will submit to God in your regard. Salam is that. In Jannah, qilan salaman salama is genuine. In this world, we say salam sometimes. It is our salam in this world sometimes is like saying Bismillah and eating haram food, or taking wal'ayadu billah, we seek refuge to God. Alcohol, Bismillah, and you want to sip alcohol. This is not. You don't start that with Bismillah. That is that you're basically doing the opposite. So salam, when you say salam, don't say salam and slap someone. And I don't mean it physically. Sometimes it could be that far, but verbally, with some ridiculing, belittling, hurting their feelings, because these are sins. We often ignore those sins. We think of sins as I drink wine, that's a sin. I eat pork, that's a sin. No, I don't. But I backbite, oh, it's okay. No big deal. Okay, I hurt someone's feelings, no big deal. I say a few words. It's only a few words. I didn't do anything. I just said something. And the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, in response to someone, he said, do people end up in hellfire, on their faces in hellfire, because of anything other than what they earned from their tongues? People think, oh, it's only a few words. Those words will, a lot of people who are in hellfire, the words that they undermine the significance or the magnitude of the harm that they could cause, and problems and wars. Families sometimes completely dissociate with each other over a few words. That's the sad reality. So, Wallahu yad'u ila dar salam, the home of salam, genuine salam. Say salam, you mean salam. And that's why there's no laghu, there's no useless talk, there's no ill speech, there's no name calling, none of those things. They muttaki'ina alayha mutaqabilin, they face each other with smiles, with good wishes, with beautiful words, with glorifying Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. and all the good things and beauties versus what we often get involved in this dunya. That is why it is Darus Salam. So it is the Dar of God, the home of God. This is one of the meanings. It is Darus Salam because it is the Dar of safety and health and well-being. It is Darus Salam because everybody says Salam. It is a home of Salam and Salam. Everyone says Salam and Salama. Or all of the above. Could be all of them combined. Wallahu yad'u ila dar salam. God is inviting us to that. And we're focused. This is why we said priorities, priorities, priorities. God is inviting us to that eternally. And we want to enjoy this shortly. Short-lived. We focus on this world, this life, which is short-lived, and He's inviting us to an eternal peace, eternal happiness, eternal nearness. قرب. وَيَهْدِي مَن يَشَاءُ إِلَى صِرَاطٍ مُسْتَقِيمٍ. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He invites to Dar es-Salam. He's inviting, and therefore He's guiding. Okay, how do we get to Dar es-Salam? Somebody may say, well, God is inviting to Dar es-Salam. Why isn't everyone in Dar es-Salam? Because it takes being guided to deserve, to be worthy of being in that gathering. You're invited to a gathering that everybody has to be dressed in a certain way and wearing certain shoes. I'm speaking about this world. If, and a hypothesis, a scenario. You're invited to a place that you have to be dressed in a certain way, wearing certain shoes, wearing certain even head covering, speaking in a certain way. This is the gathering you're invited. You have to do all these things to get there. You cannot go there, and you can imagine certain things that exist in this world, even in today's world, that would clearly restrict someone who does not abide by those rules and those expectations from being there. Okay, it takes certain etiquettes, dress code, and so on to be in certain places. To be in Jannah, you have to be of the people of Jannah. The heart has to be pure, clear from hatred, vengeance, anger, and so on and so forth. Clear from kibr, arrogance. We have to get there. So, وَيَهْدِي, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala invites us there and He guides us how to get there. وَيَهْدِي مَن يَشَاءُ إِلَى صِرَاطٍ مُسْتَقِيمٍ. Whomever He wishes, He guides them to that straight path, to get to Dar es-Salam. The question is, why is it يَهْدِي مَن يَشَاءُ? Al-Mashi'a al-Ilahiyya, the will of God, what is it based on? So some people will get guided and some people will not get guided to the straight path. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created everyone and guided, or everything rather. خَلَقَ كُلَّ شَيْءٍ ثُمَّ هَدَى. Everything is guided, not just humans. Everything. From the smallest atoms to the largest galaxies, they're all guided. Everything has its guidance on how to get to their destination and fulfill their role. Insan is guided, but when a human neglects level after level of guidance, then they're no longer guided. This is an automatic. This is something that is set by God again from the beginning. That certain things bring about more guidance. Certain actions, certain behaviors, certain talk, and certain talk brings about, or certain actions bring about misguidance. وَيُضِلُّ اللَّهُ مَن يَشَاءُ. Or عفوا, وَيُضِلُّ اللَّهُ الظَّالِمِينَ. God allows the oppressors to go astray. The term could actually mean He deceives them. Could be seen as He misguides them. وَيُضِلُّ اللَّهُ. God misguides. How come? No. He allows them to go on misguidance, part of how He created. Because He created a system that there is reward and punishment. And there are statuses to be earned by our free will. Our own action, we can gain certain statuses. Through that, Anbiya and Awsiya and Awliya, they get to the highest levels. Because of that system, it is possible for Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam to become ashraful makhluqat. He becomes the most honorable of all what God has created. In the hadith, لولاك يا محمد اللهم صل على محمد وعلى لولاك لما خلقت الأفلاك. If it wasn't for you, I would not have created all the horizons with what's in them. Galaxies, stars, this globe, earth, what's in all of this. He says, لولاك لما خلقت. Why? Because the most honorable and the most dutiful, the one who understood and obeyed God the most, is Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He has the right ma'rifah that a human should have of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He reached that level. That can be reached because of the fact that he's capable of going either way, any way he wants. He wants to go to guidance, he can. He wants to choose misguidance, he can. Even Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, yes, even Rasulullah. At the level of Risala, when he's delivering the message, if he chooses to fabricate against God, God says, at that point, we will seize him. If he does. That is not to warn him or threaten him. That is to actually confirm that that's not possible. That is to confirm that the Risala is protected. The message is protected. Quran is protected. وَلَوْ تَقَوَّلَ عَلَيْنَا بَعْضَ الْأَقَاوِيلِ. If he tried to even say something that's not from us and say it's from God, we would seize him and we would immediately take his life. ثُمَّ لَقَطَعْنَا مِنْهُ الْوَتِينَ. And nobody would be able to protect him. So on that level, yes, he cannot fabricate and so on. This is the isma that the necessary isma for us to accept his message. For those who don't understand the concept of isma, how can I understand? How can I accept a messenger and his message if he is sinful? If he can deliver to me something that is not from God, satanic verses. How can I accept somebody who can act in ways that are devilish and then consider him my role model? And his sunnah has to be followed in everything. And yet in the same book, I accuse him of being a pedophile or accuse him of being a pervert and so on and so forth. This is the sad thing that unfortunately other schools have fallen into because of the fabrications and the animosity of Bani Umayyah and how they portrayed the Prophet ﷺ. Otherwise, he cannot be committing any sins. He is the most guided, and through him Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala guides through the Quran and through the Prophet and the examples of prophets and their successors, awsiya. He guides us to the right path. إلى صراط مستقيم يهدي من يشاء إلى صراط مستقيم is not limited to obviously just the Prophet. He is the peak of God's guidance for humanity. He is the seal of prophets, and his awsiya are the best successors. They are better than any other successor before. For those, this is a comment since we are also approaching tomorrow, marks the 15th of Sha'ban, the birth of the Imam of our time, Ajalullah Ta'ala Farajahu Sharif. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. For those who question, and I often receive questions even from followers of Ahlul Bayt, about the status of the Imams of Ahlul Bayt and how come you guys believe, or how do we believe that they are better than some prophets. And again, although I often tell people these are futile conversations or discussions, doesn't matter whether they are better or the prophets are better. But to understand the status of Ahlul Bayt in order to have ma'rifah of our Imams, it is not bad to have a reflection on this, though brief. If the Prophet, or since our Prophet is the best of all prophets and messengers, no doubt, any Muslim would agree. His awsiya are the best of all awsiya. Agreed? His successors are the best of all successors. Imam Ali alayhi salam is what? Sayyidul Awsiya. The Prophet is Sayyidul Mursaleen, and the successors are Sayyid, or the best, especially Imam Ali alayhi salam. He's Sayyidul Awsiya. He's the best wasi. Previous prophets were awsiya of their previous prophet. All of our previous messengers were awsiya of the prophet before them. You with me? If those prophets were awsiya of the prophets before them, successors of the prophets before them, wasi. And he is better than, he is the master of all the awsiya, then he is definitely better than all those anbiya. And there are ahadith, there are statements, conversations. Nevertheless, we have the best of the best guides to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. In our time, we have the Imam of our time, Ajalallah ta'ala Farajahu Sharif, through whom the humanity would reach its peak in its guidance. Even according to the hadith, prior to the life of the Imam, humanity would have reached only 2 out of 28 levels of knowledge. Huruf, it's referred to. If knowledge is 28, humanity would have reached 2 letters out of the 28. And with the Imam, people would reach the complete 28. Can you imagine what we would get to in terms of even science and technology and understanding of our universe and so on, with the return and the presence of our Imam Ajalallah Ta'ala Farajahu Sharif? Though he is like the sun behind the clouds in our time, indirectly guiding and helping and even supporting some of his special agents who are without any claim, without any effort for fame. They are simply guiding people and fulfilling the wishes and the commands of the Imam Ajalullah Ta'ala Faraja Sharif. Inshallah, we're amongst them. Ila siratin mustaqim. There is no better sirat or path or way of life than the way of life of Ahlul Bayt, salawatullah wa salam alayhim ajma'een. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. If there are questions, otherwise or comments, maybe we can do, yes.
Another question from one of the verses we read earlier about the boat.
Yeah.
In fact, it was the same thing that happened to Prophet
Yunus, yes, Ahsan. Ahsan.
So, with regards to decision making,
Yeah.
there was a means that was used then that I don't see used nowadays. Nowadays, it's all rationalized, that's reason, and all. Over there, it was the boat is too full, one person needs to go. Just pick a lot. If you get picked up, off you go. You know?
Yeah.
So, what's the validity of that process of making a decision? So you're in a position where you can't think, you know, it's like, okay, here, and all valid cases.
Yeah.
How do you make a decision?
Yeah.
Is there any value in picking a lot, or is there any paragraph, or any godly, you know, reason?
Yeah. We said that nothing happens except for a reason. There are no accidents. Okay. So God wants us to use our intellect, our rational, our mind. He gave it to us to use it, and through it gain guidance and nearness to Him, and so on and so forth. But if you're in a situation where there's no, as you mentioned, there's no reasoning, you cannot. I mean, how can you logically reason throwing somebody? Let's say they often used to have a joke, a plane, it's too heavy. The pilot says that we have to get rid of some weight, so they throw all their assets or their baggage, and they're still heavy. They have to throw some people. Now, who do we choose? And based on what? Okay, in that situation, now it's suggested that they used to believe that the ocean is angry. Okay, God is angry, or the ocean is angry, and somebody has to be sacrificed. And now, interestingly, it ended up being the decree of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Yeah. So the draw came in His name, according to some narration, 3 times. So because they said, "Oh, it can't be you. We only see you as a righteous person." All these tradesmen, fishermen, they're like rough people. I don't know, maybe semi-pirates or something. And then all of a sudden, this humble servant of God is a prophet of God. So people recognize goodness, righteous. So they said, "No, it can't be you. Ocean is angry with someone else, not you." So the second time, third time, then realized, no, it was, or he, according to some narrations. And the third time he said, "I know it's me. You don't need to worry about it." And he jumped. He didn't wait for them to even throw him. They may have even tried again, but he said, "I know it's me now." It was a sign at that point. It was like a sign to him. So that draw ended up being something godly. Okay, it was not. Now, do we do things in this manner? Obviously, we don't believe in superstition. So, the ocean is angry. We have to sacrifice somebody. We don't have that kind of, reaction. We don't agree with something like that. Could it be possible that somebody has to be sacrificed in that position? Yes, but God decides, not us. Okay, in the sense that sometimes they have sayings. If a glass breaks, in some cultures they say, "Okay, that's good. The eye that took away the evil eye." Okay, some glass broke. Oh, that took the protector. It's a protection. It's a good thing. Okay, they look at it. And I didn't know until recently, somebody mentioned to me, in some cultures, they actually break it themselves. So as they move into a house, they have to break something. They bring some, I don't know, plate, glass, whatever it is, a vase, something, and they break it. And they say that way, okay, the evil thing that was supposed to happen already happened. Okay, so now we're good. Yeah, there are certain things that we mentioned earlier, purification happens sometimes with some harm. Okay, but again, we don't go ahead and make that decision ourselves. Using draws is not a bad thing for good things. Okay, for even the way we do our istikhara, we have even the istikhara that al-ruqa', which is the one that you have different papers. You put them under your prayer mat, you perform a certain salat, and you pick one of the papers. This is one type of istikhara, by the way. It's called that al-ruqa'. It's there in Mafatih al-Jinan as well. So we have that kind of istikhara, for example. The way we open the Quran, we do it the same way. Essentially, we're opening the Quran, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, istikhara with the Quran. Okay, and we open the Quran and the ayah that it has a method, either the beginning of the first page or you count 7 pages, and then in the middle of the 7th page, there are different suggestions based on narrations, nothing that we make up ourselves. You make this istikhara or that istikhara, and whatever ayah comes should be your inspiration, your answer. So that is also a kind of a draw, if you. And we are essentially, we're asking God to guide us, since now we don't have a way of rationalizing it and deciding ourselves. We're asking God to guide us with this. There are different types. There is another one, another form of istikhara, for example, where you pray and ask God for guidance through the words of a person that you're consulting, a mu'min. Okay, so you come to a believer, a mu'min, and you say, I have this dilemma. Before you ask them, you ask God to bring inspiration and goodness from their words. And so then you go and say to them, I have this dilemma. You've done maybe 2 rak'ah salat for good things to happen out of it, salawat. And then you ask this person, I have this dilemma. What do you think? Whatever they say is istikhara from God for you, whatever they advise you. So we have different forms. Nevertheless, taking draws, opening the Quran and so on is okay. And again, there's no accident, nothing. Now, interpretation is another one. So some people say, can we do istikhara ourselves? Yes, everybody can do istikhara. But if you're doing istikhara with the Quran, then you need to be able to interpret the ayat properly, understand the application of it and so on. We have scholars that simply by opening the Quran, they can even tell you not just good, bad. They can go as far as telling you the nature of your istikhara, whether it's for marriage, whether it's for travel, and they'll elaborate in terms of what you should do and or if it's best not to, and so on and so forth. So again, these things can be used, but obviously we are meant to first use our intellect, our rationality, and if that does not help us, if we are facing a situation where we cannot make a decision unless we have some sort of a draw, then that would be a method. I hope that any other questions or comments? Do we have time
I had
for?
a question earlier.
Yeah.
Asking on behalf of someone.
Sure.
When we pass away,
Mhm.
what happens to our soul? Where does it go?
Mhm.
Does it come back? It's after we've been buried.
Mhm.
Because one current here are gonna ask us questions, for
Yeah,
example.
yeah.
So does the soul have to be back in the body to be able to answer these questions, or where is these questions happening?
Yeah,
Is
yeah.
it here or is it somewhere else?
Yeah, yeah, Hassan. So the initial stage of death is like it's like sleep. Okay, sleeping, when you sleep, what happens to the soul is that it departs the body. And according to the Quran, الله يتوفى الأنفس حين مماتها والتي لم تمت في منامها. So God takes the soul during at the time of death and at the time of sleep for those who have not died. So that soul is taken. Then he says the one who's decreed to have died, then it's kept, and the one who's decreed to live, the soul is given back to the body to continue on with life. After death, the soul is not going to be in the body anymore. That body is done. It is gone. But it is close to it in the initial stage. Now, close in what sense? Soul is not physical. Okay, so since it's not physical, that proximity is not physical either. So we cannot understand it in our physical world. It is, I mean, there are some, I've shared with Mu'mineen, there are some even Hollywood production movies that bring the idea close when you go to a different realm. You're no longer in this physical world. You're in a different world. In that world, Qurb and Bu'd is not like, okay, I gotta travel now I don't know, 10,000 miles or 20,000 miles. I need to go to Najaf and be in Wadi Salam. And how far is it? In that realm, it doesn't work like that. In that realm, they often say there's a saying of the Arafat that in the realm of spirituality, there is no distance of traveling. Okay, in a moment, they could be in Najaf, the next moment here, the next moment in Mashhad, whatever. Okay, in a spiritual journey, there's no proximity the way we have it or the way we understand it. Near in the spiritual sense, it is not far from it. Okay, perhaps it is still conscious of it. Okay, it was the vehicle for it for a long time, for a lifetime. The body was the vehicle. So it's still conscious of it. It's still close to, like they sometimes depict it as watching over the body. And those who have been through near-death experience, they explain that I was watching over my body. Okay. We have even some ulama who were seen by some of their family members or students describing the initial stage of death, and they describe it similarly, almost like watching over the body. Okay, but watching doesn't mean that now they're trapped in this room to watch a body that's in this room, or could they be all the way next to the sun? But does it make sense for the soul to have to be here or next to the sun? There's no place for the soul, so it's not proximity in that sense. You know what I'm trying to say? Like it's not a matter of, okay, it's traveling close or traveling far. It's now focusing here. Here's the body. Thursday night, they focus on their family members. They're expecting some recitation for them. Okay, they turn to them. Turn to them. Do they have to travel hours and days and so on? No, immediately. Turn to them and they expect some good things from them. So the soul is not in the body, it's close in that sense. And where it goes, it's with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's in the realm of malakut. It's no longer in the realm of mulk. In alam al-mulk, it's trapped in this body. At night, we're relieved from the body, and the body is relieved from us. Okay, both. Our stress kills our body also. You know? So the body is getting a break, we are getting a break, both. This mix of the two opposites. And then eventually at death, the body is gone. The body is completely gone, but again, the awareness of it. So the su'al al-qabr, daqat al-qabr, all of these things could be, even a part of it could be visualized in the sense that our consciousness of the body, now the harm that is experienced to a body in that sense. But does it mean that that's all physical? Or does it have a physical aspect? There are suggestions that it has even a physical aspect, that even the body, what it's going through, the mayyit is witness. So for instance, God honors the body of shuhada, it protects their body. It's only a body, but it's protected. Okay, years later, it's still there, intact. Okay, and another body starts being attacked by all sorts of beasts and creatures and so on. Okay, so how would the soul experience it? It's probably conscious of it. Okay, because again, or even there's the hadith that one who had what we consider as near-death experience, who was buried thinking that she was dead, but she witnessed the initial stages, and she came with gray hair. She was all like younger with black hair or color, but now all white hair. Okay, overnight, from the fear of what what she witnessed. So there are such examples. Now, how did the body experience it? That's probably because it was not complete death, it was near death in that sense. But the consciousness of it, it's closer in that sense, the consciousness of the body. The pressure, the burning, all of these things don't have to be physical. Okay, it is definitely the ruh is now out. Wadi Salam. Now, there is in Barzakh, during the Barzakh time, it is not as far as the Qiyamah, and it's not as the norm of life and how the body is, the soul is in the body. There is a relationship. So, for example, those who are buried in Wadi Salam, they are experiencing goodness being there. Now, some are removed. There are some who are removed. Physically, not necessarily. Okay, they're not supposed to be. And others who are brought there. Inshallah, we will be transferred. There's a hadith of Malaika Naqala, the Malaika who move the bodies of the soul or the mayyit off from one area to another. So all the mu'mineen in Wadi Salam, all the bad ones in Wadi Barahut. They say it's Wadi Barahut in Hadramaut, which is in Yemen today. Now, why there? What's the significance there? Allahu Alam. Yeah. But that's the Wadi Barahut is what is suggested for the opposite of the Wadi Salam. So that's where they gather. Okay. Essentially, the hadith says, and this is authentic, Sunni and Shia have this hadith, that Qabr is either like a well in hell or it is like a garden in heaven. Okay, Al-Qabru imma rawdatun min riyad al-Jannah aw hufratun min hufar al-Niran. Either well in hellfire, wal-'iyadhu billah, or and again, it's not necessarily for the body. The body, if God is honoring it and protecting it, is one thing. If not, it's perishing, going back to, and they will continue regardless. Now, the body of, say, the people of Fir'aun and his time, his people, gone down, whether it's mummied or not, it's the ones who are not, they're gone. Quran says, "An-naru yu'raduna 'alayha." Every morning and every evening they're exposed to hellfire until the day of judgment. So it doesn't matter whether their body is still there or not. It's irrelevant. So this ruh is out. Now, where exactly? It's in Barzakh. Where is Barzakh? I don't know. Until Qiyamah, inshallah, we will know.
So the ruh is the one that's connected this answering the questions.
Yeah, of course.
Because the body is gone.
No, it's not. Yeah, the body has no life. The only significance to it is perhaps in the initial stage, the attachment that the connection that the mayyit makes with this. This was just me. So they witness it, they see it. There are multiple ahadith and books that describe it in what nowadays they describe in this near-death experience. Similarly, there's a book by Allama al-Kouchani, Siyahatul Gharb. It's translated in English into life of the journey of the unseen world. The journey of the unseen world, or journey of the unseen world. He describes, based on the ayat and hadith, he describes the journey of death and onwards, what happens. So it's a very good book to read. He witnesses his body, he witnesses the relatives around, and all of that is based on, again, hadith and ayat and hadith. Ahsanallah ilaykum. I think that's it. والحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى الله وسلم على سيدنا ونبينا محمد وآله الطيبين الطاهرين
اللهم صل على محمد وعلى محمد